The fourth episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is here. Episode is called Seven. That's right, just seven. Sarah Adina Smith at the director's helm again. Aziza Barnes and Annie Julia Wyman and Ira Parker on the writing side. And this is our look, deep dive, discussion, celebration of the show. I'm Ken Napzok.
Hello, and I'm Alden Diaz. So excited to talk about an instant classic, an instant fan favorite. Ready to dive right into it. It feels appropriate to discuss this amidst the Super Bowl because this is our Super Bowl. The Trial of Seven is our Super Bowl.
That is right.
Or big game.
The big game. The big game. Yeah, you and I are recording this on a big game Sunday. Sorry, NFL. Of course, the first thing I should talk about is HBO being aware of that and being aware of the pop culture zeitgeisty thing that is beyond even just sports and moving this to Friday, which I actually, Alden, forgot. Even though I think you had been reminding me, but I forgot and didn't get to watch it till a day later. So how was your experience watching it?
Yeah, my experience with it was even then, even knowing they still kind of got me because I knew it was going to be released early, that had gotten out maybe via social media. But then I didn't realize, though, that the time slot was going to change. I thought it would be Friday, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And it ended up being available. It had to have been Thursday, midnight Eastern or 3 a.m. Eastern. I saw people posting about the Game of Thrones theme music cue that happens at the end. And I thought, that didn't happen. Did I miss the Game of Thrones theme in the credits of the previous episode? Surely not. And then I realized, they watched the new episode, which was so I got that spoiled for me, but it didn't take away from the effect.
Same. I kind of had seen some things. And look, I was. This is a show first. Deep dive, as we always do. The novellas and the graphic novels, which I'm actually more familiar with the graphic novels of the Dunk and Egg tales. We're going to have episodes. You're going to bring on some folks that have been on the show before that are going to discuss kind of that aspect of it here. So I'm taking this in from the show. So I'm familiar with the story, having read these Dunk and Egg adventures prior to this, but I have forgotten a lot of it and then didn't pick them up to refresh. I am taking this show in with as much just, that's right, kind of energy. And that really worked for this episode. You are familiar with these as well. Where are you at with that too? Because this was a big episode that if you have nothing, if you don't know anything of the story, you're going to get some huge pops. If you have some familiarity, you kind of can remember. But what was your relationship to it coming in?
My relationship to the events, and really this is true of most stuff, just, people that are new to the channel and whatever, I come at it show first almost entirely, where I've only actually fully page to page read a Game of Thrones. That's pretty much it. Everything else is me looking through the world of Ice and Fire or doing research deep dives as if it was real history. So before House of the Dragon started, I did a lot of like Fire and Blood research because I think it's fun that way. It's not because I don't enjoy the prose or don't want to read them. It's that it's just the way life has worked out, where I've always been like, I'll do the full series read, and then, things happen or you don't do it or whatever. And so for me, it was a situation of, I remember, Ashford, and like, I know what's going to happen, and even things that still haven't happened, I kind of know, but all the details of it, especially closed door conversations, were pretty new, and there were twists that I definitely didn't remember, like the Fossaway double cross, and that I didn't recall at all. So enough freshness for it to still be exciting.
Same, right there with you on that there, and it made the experience that much more rich. This is, 4 episodes in to a 6-episode season 1, to say this is my new favorite. It almost is comical to suggest that, but this is one of my favorite episodes in all of Game of Thrones. House of Dragon, Game of Thrones, doesn't matter. This episode was near perfection for me, and there's a lot about it when I talk about it that is related to me, my life, or my view of the world, or where I feel the world is and where I am in the world. There's a lot of things I'm going through that this episode touched a nerve. I actually text you. I was sobbing at the end of this episode when Baelor makes this big decision. I was absolutely floored, moved, and that's why I love discussing the art like this. The book stuff and what works, and was this shot good? Was the lighting good? Are all kind of parts of being a critic. This is me having an episode with you of just reacting with my heart and what this what's in the text and what this piece of art is saying. And this had a lot to say, Alden. I want to get into some of the themes, but also pitch you here in a second about what you thought overall of the episode. But the themes of this episode, building off what the show continues to ask, and the opening was that. I go, what kind of knight are you? This is 6 episodes of trying to answer that question. But this episode had a lot to do with power corrupting. There is a stuff about what I feel a comment on a positive masculinity in a world where you hear people yelling toxic masculinity. This was an episode that had very much that going on through it, and also about, again, what do you fight for? Who do you fight for? And the deeds over the title, which is something we talked about last week. But anyways, that's the overall thoughts for me. You?
Yeah, I mean, societally, especially, is where it got me personally as well. I mean, when you pointed out what got you at the end, I mean, it made sense knowing you as your friend, but it also makes sense on a level of like needing hope and all that. But the ideas of positive masculinity and chivalry and oaths and codes, and do they have any meaning if you don't show up for them? I mean, it's really impossible to separate what we've seen in our lives and in our world from what's happening there. I think, Peter Clafley's performance at the end is his first career highlight reel thing where, in a world where genre was recognized in the way that it should be, and a fantasy role could get you recognition, that would be the awards clip, right? Where it's that, are there no true knights among you? It's an incredible fantasy line and immediately just moves you and you're like, yeah. But then you sit down and you're like, are there no true knights among us? And how does that make you feel as a viewer? Of course, Americans are not the only people that watch this, so I'm not trying to center just one experience, but we are Americans on this channel. So it's hard to not be like, Dunk, I feel you, man. I scream it every day. I scream it every day. So this was definitely one of the most relatable episodes of a Thrones show for sure.
Yeah, you're right. You want to make sure we're us Americans ain't always centering, but hey, that's kind of one of our brands. But I can't deny that all that stuff was going through me on this episode. When Sir Robin is saying, I'm paraphrasing, but I'll serve the king. But when the crown goes against God, I go against them. But that moment was wonderful for me. Baylor even having some of these conversations about, this is how not how to lead. And I love the conversation with Dunk and Baylor, and him just like, you serve you're prince of the realm. I'm a hedge knight. There's no difference. We take the same vow, right? To protect the innocent. And so Baylor's decision later on had deep meaning for me on a lot of levels personally, but had a lot of deep meanings for me politically and out there in the world with what's going on right now. Of like, what oath did you take? What are you actually upholding? And Baylor kind of having this, it's not even like machinations on his part, just going like, we'll lose the realm if we lead like this, if we go after the innocent and we don't stand up for it. Yeah, they're going to have Trial 7 and leave it up to the gods, but I'm going to stand on this side until fate delivers its final blow to me. I was really moved by the concept of that, and then also throw it in there. Stefan Fossaway, as I'm calling him, Sir Target, because he makes this big show of, I'm going to stand with you. I don't like those Targaryens. I don't like what they've been doing, and I'm going to do this. You know what? I find that glory is the greatest of pursuits. So yes, I'm standing with you. I do not like their policies, and I'm going to stand with you. Oh, wait, hold on. They just gave me a deal to secure my position. Sorry, I don't stand on anything now. I stand against you. The very, very important political themes all through this episode.
Yes. Yeah, no, 100%. I was just, if you're watching on YouTube and you saw me looking at my phone, it was not for lack of listening. It was wanting to pull up the oath of the night and how it speaks to so much of what you're saying. And the fact that we get a little piece of it later, you can see that it's not just, with Fossaway and the target of it all, you don't have to be an Aryan to betray that oath, right? And to betray those values.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, and I think that's also very relevant to this time. You don't need to be breaking people's fingers and accusing people of heresy and being a degenerate. It's also saying, yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice some honor for payday up front. I'm willing to, besmirch my name for a little bit more in the immediate. That is also dishonor in its own way. That is also you know, not befitting of the station of a knight. When you look at the oath, and I did clock that it is a little bit different here than it is in Game of Thrones season 8. Not that either is like totally different. It's just that this one's wording I think is a little bit more book accurate, and Jamie leaves off a couple words, and it only does the first few lines. You can make the argument that they were about to be attacked. So it's a that was a very informal drinking circle knighting. This is informal too. I'll let people debate which one they like more in the comments. But I mean, in the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave, to do that target stuff, inherently cowardly. I charge you to be just. How can it be just to take money when you know something is wrong? I charge you to defend the young and innocent, and act like that is inherently the problem. And I think the show is trying to convey to us that Dunk has to fight this in different ways, and he's not always equipped to fight them. You can't punch somebody that's doing something like that. And I think that just contributes to a little bit of the explosive speech that he gives at the end.
Yeah, no, you love you bringing up the oath there, and Baylor having that moment too of just like when they're talking about the puppet show. By the way, treason by puppetry was just a great line. The show continues just to be wonderfully funny out of the moments and out of the characters. But Baylor kind of having being faced with this weakness of the Targaryen dynasty that is going on in this time, both in story and in lore, in this world of Westeros and this world of ice and fire, but also just looking at it from the outside and connecting our real world of just like, we say we're in power, we say we're in control, and a puppet show threatens us, and we must rally around even the ideas, even though we all know it wasn't about us. It wasn't even about one of our dragons recently, because the dragon's been gone, but that this is a piece of art that could undertake us and could undercut our ruling this land and our power and control over this land. And it's like a halftime show offending an entire part of our population and undercutting what they sense as their power and control. So and Baylor being faced with that, I thought was another powerful thing coming face to face with the oath that you just covered.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it has obviously the real world implications, but even just in terms of class, both in the metaphor for us and also just in world, it's kind of Baylor having to reckon with something that a lot of people of his station don't often have to face in all three of the series, and in the text, which is like you they're so used to the trappings of their being a big house, of being a major player, that they forget that certain things do transcend all levels of society. And how Dunk points out, like, it is the same oath. It's almost like it's such an obvious thing that of course a student of history like Baylor does know that, but it's so rare that you have to put that into action. Like, when was the last time that he was even in a scenario where he would be at a camp or in the streets where he would have to punch someone assaulting a woman? He probably doesn't even see that anymore because he's just in council chambers. He's by the Iron Throne. And I think it's a reminder of like, hey man, just because you got to say the oath and then disappear into a tower, some of us said the oath and still had to walk around.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't change reality.
Absolutely. One of my big things is rule from the ground. Rule with your feet on the ground is a way to look at it there. There's some of the big moments for me. I can get to the big stuff at the end, but what are the moments and themes that jumped out to you?
I really like, of course, it's a huge thing, the first conversation of Dunk and Egg after the reveal. But I love that Dunk still can't find it within himself to be fully angry. Like, he folds very quickly. He tries so hard to be mad at him, but the second that he sees Egg getting any heat for what happened, he sticks up for him. And he's a good boy. He's a kid. He made a mistake, but he's a good lad, and he sticks up for him and really shows Egg that even though what Egg did was wrong, the Egg wasn't wrong in choosing him. Like, it's sort of that confirmation of like, okay, well, what we have is real. And I'm glad that wasn't dragged out in a way that maybe 10 years ago, maybe like network TV style, where they would have been mad at each other for the whole episode. I'm glad that was not the case.
No, I love all that stuff, and I think Duncan's anger towards Egg or disappointment or just embarrassment is very earned, and I love that conversation. I love the conversation again of Baylor, and Bertie Carvel just he's killing it as Birdie, or Birdie's killing as Birdie. Birdie's killing it as Baylor. And I wasn't super familiar with his work, and I love when a show like Game of Thrones or Star Wars or something introduces a bigger audience to someone who's been working for a very long time. It's just kind of the way of it sometimes. And shocked to learn he's actually younger than me, so I feel really old, Alden. But anyways, I love that conversation with Egg, and I love the conversation about Egg's actions, not done with ill intent, but still you could still be harmful with your actions, and that's a lesson for Egg to learn. And Aegon is showing up dressed as Targaryen, cool outfit, loved it, loved the look, so Game of Thronesy. Walks in and just have those quiet moments. That one tier, Dexter Solanso, we sing his praises every week. I think it was some of the best stuff, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everything that he brings to the slight shift in Egg is genius. I love that you brought up the costuming of it all. They always do such a great job with this, but sometimes there's a novelty, I think, that we don't get to see a lot of, seeing a house's like essential look shrunken down to child size. It reminds me of seeing Bran in like the same little fur, his little fur cape, like a mini size of what Sean Bean was wearing. So like that's funny to me. But then I also like too that what he highlights as he demonstrates this side of Egg, now that he's having to he can't be sort of like the wisecracking little Egg that we've come to know with his little nuggets of wisdom. He has to fall in line and be respectful to his uncle. There's a lot of sorrow and pain that comes up very subtly when he flat out says that he wishes that Dunk had taken out Arya point blank and unalived him for the purposes of YouTube, and flat out says that to Baylor, which surprised me. And it's the fact that Baylor doesn't snap at him like maybe I thought he would, or shame him. He just says, you know, he speaks from faith, but he's saying like we're supposed to like love our brothers, and he says it in a really sad way, which I think is a giveaway, one, of his own relationships, but two, it's got such an air of like, will this always be our family? Because it always has been, and that's really really sad
Mm.
to see it represented in a kid like that. You know.
Yeah, you're just cementing for me that the Baelor Targaryen is becoming one of my favorite characters in this world as portrayed on the show, because you're so right. He's picking. I mean, that says so much about his relationship with what his three other brothers, Maekor being the fourth, and who is just delightfully dumb.
Mm.
I just love the way that you said, not what the trial is seven. What is like just great? It's exposition. It's great exposition, but it's just what a wonderful dummy. But Baelor kind of being the soul, trying to hold on to this dynasty that has been problematic, has been a little bit of a problem for the realm, but is still in control, and him having a sense of what that could mean, and facing those tragedies, and having the pangs in his heart and soul for what Aegon Egg did was great. Were great moments there. I'm glad you brought that up too.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that he's hitting for you as much as he is, because he is such a Ken coded character. I think he is so Ken coded. This is a guy who absolutely watches like history docs, but I guess for him they would be scrolls and
Yes.
tomes. uh he's just about the business. He's probably, I mean, he seems like a great hand at this time. He's got that amazing hand of the king pin. I love this guy. He's great.
Yes, indeed. What are some other things getting into your heart and soul for this episode?
I love the blacksmith conversation, man. That was so key for me. I think that, one, the payoff of getting to see the Dunk Shield completed is beautiful, and for book readers, that is a huge point of historical theorizing, because it's, that shield ends up with Brienne in the texts, lending to many theories that Brienne of Tarth is a descendant of Duncan the Tall, and she probably is, because George has said that there are some. So that's fun. um and in a world where we could special edition and retcon things in, that would be a fun thing to see Gwendolyn Christie with. But just the soul of how Dunk, once again, much like my favorite conversation of the season so far about the one-armed sex worker, the conversation here is Dunk uh maybe taking not a cynical point of view, but just expecting life to beat him down. he's a kind man. He's a warm man. He's not a jerk. He's not a cynic, but he's kind of just like, oh, you know, the shield's like, it's not right. The star it's pointing down. Like this is a bad omen. And it's the blacksmith that's like, hey man, this is a tree in summer. Look at the life in it. Look, you gotta look at things a little bit differently. And those things keep coming at Dunk from unexpected places. And I really like that. That could have been a throwaway character, and he ends up having something so essential. And it was a really great scene.
I absolutely love that you brought that up, and not to get to like base level therapy speak, but it's like someone Dunk is someone who often operates out of scarcity, and you have what Steely Pate, is that his name, the blacksmith, uh, looking portrayed by Yusuf Kirkor, excellently, just so wonderfully warm, and that performance that is this big burly character and man, but just kind of like, yeah, you're talking about look at things through the lens of abundance. Look at things, it's not just glass half full, glass. It's just that like Dunk has had a life of scarcity, so it makes sense that he sees things only through those lenses. But I thought it was a really powerful moment as well.
Yeah, yeah. Abundance and scarcity is a great way to put it. I mean, I'm kind of jumping to the end here, and we will talk about the speech and everything with Baylor at the end. But even the way that this episode continues the ambiguity of the novellas and the comics, which is that you are never 100% sure if he actually has been 100% knighted. Is it that he was never knighted and he's lying? Is it that he was kind of knighted and Arlen died? Is it that he was knighted in so many words? Any version of that. And here we get the knighting of Raymond Fossaway by Lionel, and they intercut with this vision of Arlen, and it's shot in the same perspective, so it feels like a knighting. And in that, I think the show, kind of like a recent finale to a major Netflix series, is kind of challenging the viewer in that moment in a fun way, because it's saying, by showing Arlen, I've seen people online reacting like, that confirms that he was never knighted because he didn't feel like he could knight Raymond, or that confirms that he was knighted because they're showing you his knighting. And I honestly think that even I'm a kind of knighted guy. I think maybe Arlen was like, yeah, sure, maybe the night before he died or something like that. That's what I want to believe. And I think in that moment, Dunk is seeing him, and the show is asking you, like, well, remember the shield? Are these summer leaves or not? Is he a knight or not? And I think that you kind of, it's imploring you to side with Dunk in that, you know. I don't know. I'm rambling, but that's me.
No, it's imploring you to ask, does it even really matter? It matters in terms of the realm, and
Yeah.
it matters in terms of Lionel Baratheon needs to, knight Raymond right here, so we can have a full squad to fight. And but this is a series again that in every episode it says, hey, our major question, our thesis statement is, what does it mean to be a knight? And to me, I take away is like, I'm probably with you too. Knighted ish, maybe. Who knows? I don't necessarily take that he couldn't knight Raymond as that just a fact to support that detail, or support that question. I just think there's so much going on, and maybe maybe he doesn't want Raymond to join this fight and lose his life. Like, all those things could be going on, but I think the end result, what you're touching on, Alden, is what I love that this show continues to do, and I'm sure we'll do for 2 more episodes out of its 6 episode run for season 1 here. Does that even matter? If you call yourself a knight, whether you've been knighted in front of everyone or in front of a tree and 3 horses, it's about what you do with that title that matters. And I think that whole sequence was moving as well for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. I mean, it's the idea of I mean, you talk to, like, our friend, shout out Jerry Cable from Bombad Cast, shout out Andy, who's contributed on this very channel and will very soon, about Dunk and Egg. Um, these are people that have worked in ministry, and like the idea that the church is wherever you are. It's where where you stand. It's not the church. Or even if you want to stay nerdy, go to what Taika Waititi did with Thor, that Asgard is not a place. Asgard is a people. And you look at here in America, like, okay, well, does a law matter if it's not enforced? And I think all these things that are telling us, like, ceremony matters way less than actually living a life of action, whether that's about cultural identity, whether that's about the law, whether that's about art, and in this case, it is about knighthood. We've seen countless knights that have a title that fail it all the time, every day, countless times. In Game of Thrones, you could throw a rock and find a knight that is an objectively horrible person. So and House of the Dragon as well. So why do they get to set the terms? It's asking all these questions that I think are really important. And Martin wisely has always had in his mythology, and this is not the case in lots of different mythologies, that any knight can make a knight. Usually that is a monarch thing, that the monarch has to make a knight. And I've always thought it was interesting that um, that Martin emphasizes that. I mean, I could be wrong about that. People could say that I've read way more fantasy novels. Like, no, Alden, actually, most fantasy worlds, it is that way. So maybe. But as we understand it, especially with the only, still active monarchy that is knighting people now, it is that way. But Martin has always left it up to these individuals that are just out there. He's left it up to the Lionels and the later the Jamies. So it is interesting, and I think we're supposed to be asking it. And I'm once again reaffirming I am a kind of knighted person, and I'm sticking to it.
Is this the new pop culture thing? You got to choose sides. Is this a like the Vampire Sparkle movies? We got to choose Team Edward. Team Momo's Knighted works for me.
Yes.
Let's go to the fight. Let's go to this Battle of Seven. Let's get to it here as we start to wind up this discussion here. Obviously, this is something I definitely did remember from the novellas, which I read maybe 10 years ago now. So excited to see this come to fruition here on the screen. This is fun. It's exciting, but also, again, for me, I will admit, very moving. And you did send that graphic to me. It's wonderful. I feel like it's a video game or a wrestling video game. Of just seeing who's all on the team. If we were a sports talk radio, we'd take some bets down here on who's going to survive, win, and all those good things. But take me through this Trial of Seven coming to fruition here.
It's very, very exciting to me. One, because all the shows have conditioned us to love the trials, and it's very cool, and it's a great convention of this world. The Seven, bringing a fresh aspect to it that we haven't seen, which is exciting. Getting to, because we've had tourneys in both shows, but they make a point of this being very rare, being I believe an Andal's custom, and the way that Maker rolls his eyes at that is very funny. But it's very exciting. I think that the roster, as I'm looking at it here, is really cool. It's cool to see the Kingsguard in there. When I was texting Andy about the episode, Andy made the great point where it's like, for a lot of these people, it's also a matter of how rarely do you get to fight the Kingsguard. How often do you get to fight the Kingsguard with no consequence? And to be able to just engage with them in that way and to prove yourself, it's very exciting. Unfortunately, Dunk's roster, obviously on paper, not as strong, but we have heart, we have grit, and that's what counts.
We got grit, man. We got grit. So for me, bringing together the team and the little clue on rewatch where I love the Lionel Baratheon, like Sir Stefan brought you all together. Who the fuck is Sir Stefan? No, your kid brought us together. Like, what are you doing? Setting that all up. Raven, it's building. I love the fart moment. I love the way this show does kind of play with, hey, we all know you're here in general. You've watched the other shows. You've been in this world. Also, you've watched fantasy and genre and sci-fi epics for decades now in terms of pop culture. So they have fun playing with it a little bit, I think, and I think it's effective. And this moment, the build up, the music swelling, and this fart on the ideals that you're fighting for, Dunk, was this last straw for Dunk, and it works in that regard. But I love the way that played out, and because I personally am in this spot in my life where I'm not comparing myself directly to Dunk, but I'm just like, I've been trying to give this stuff a go. I'm struggling to get work, and a lot of the people that I knighted no longer bring me in for work or can't bring me in for work, and I sometimes feel very alone. My shield is not as strong as the other ones. My tech gear is failing me. Is there anyone out there that wants to join me in this fight? I was in that. So there's the big political stuff we've been talking about in this episode, the big kind of zeitgeisty social issue stuff that the show's, I think, running straight into. But for me personally, I wanted someone to stand up, and I wanted someone to stand up with Dunk because I need someone to stand up with me sometimes. And I fell for that, and I fell for I fell for the fart, Alden. I fell for the fart.
Yeah, I also fell for it. I thought it was funny. I mean, when it happened, I think like part of my nerd brain kicked in where I was like, "Wait a second." But even then it's funny. I also think that it intentionally throws us off because we had been in this pattern of assuming that the whatever the big gag was going to be would be always at the front to join with our title card, and then this made that not the case, and they saved it
Mm-hmm.
for the end. I think it was very well deployed. Still sticking to a gagging episode in some way though, so hey. But I really liked it. I think it's a great moment. It worked to me to use a wrestling term. But yeah, I think societally it just hits. Personally, it hits for all the reasons that you said. I feel you on so many of those struggles right now, but just the way things are with whatever your knighthood is, whatever your version of knighthood is, we're all sort of being squeezed and made frustrated because I think what Dunk is saying, in the modern terms, is like I thought I signed up to do this job, and you are all either telling me one of two things: either this job doesn't actually exist, or you're all a bunch of hypocrites. And he refuses to accept either of those. And I think that the refusal to accept either of them is very, very moving and stirring.
Yeah, yeah, which set it all up for Baylor to take this side, to take this stand, and that was the moment that got me. This is, cements it here as a top five, a World of Westeros and Essos episode for me. This episode will be rewatched many many times, just like some other great Game of Thrones episodes. It's a big epic House of the Dragon episodes. This one is going to live on in my fandom viewing rotation for a long time, and it led to this moment. And I have to admit, I just lost it. I just lost it because I was so moved by not just Baelor Targaryen taking the stand, but just this idea of someone saying, no, what we do matters. And what I claim to be has to continue to be built on how I actually act. And Duncan has been an example of that from the very beginning. And the words got to me. And here I am standing up against my family. Targaryens do love fighting each other. We know about them Targaryen civil wars. We got it. We see it. We know it. This is something a little different for me. This is not Targaryen on Targaryen. This is standing for what's right and standing only for greed, power, and self-interest. And I was just absolutely floored and moved. And it was just shot well, it was directed well, acted well. It was just 10 out of 10 Game of Thrones classic moment for me.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, I don't want to just be like, I agree, but it is so beautiful. The standing against the family thing is very true. And I did see pointed, some pointed discussions and memes going around that I agreed with of like, be more like Baylor, like be willing to look at your own family and say, we should be better than this. This is not right. I think that hits in a lot of ways that he's willing to do something on a point of honor, which is not the case for a lot of people in general. It's also especially not the case for this world where a lot of people put last name over everything, even atrocities. Forget a fight at a camp or one assault. Like people have done way worse to maintain that house line. So that mattered. But the last thing I wanted to touch on was the music drop, and I'll throw it to you for your thoughts on the music drop because I just wanted to say I loved it, and I think that it makes the lack of the theme in the pilot, it actually enhances that for me, that now we've made the music something to be earned by a moment. So it felt really cool.
Yeah, they have talked about that. They have talked about that, I think, in the post show interviews, but also just comments online of just like this character and the show earning that moment. And I like, going into this hearing that there was going to be a little bit of a different intro. I love the big Game of Thrones intros. I love the big House of the Dragon intro. That's kind of the part of it. And being from the Star Wars side of things where, should this have a crawl? Should this not have a crawl? I think I've gotten over it. But also, I sometimes do miss the big epic beginning because that's kind of Star Wars and everything. But this is a show that's expanding this world and expanding this lore and expanding it to folks who are TV only, show only. So it was a risk to do it, but then to take that music, to take Ramin Djawadi's music play it as a character moment. We've had a couple of those moments, including the first episode, of course. I think this worked very well. To hear Sarah Dina Smith, the director, say like, on the day of the shoot, actually, as we're doing the track and shot, I'm humming to myself. That theme represents so much to us as fans, and this show is saying, yeah, it does to us too, and it should matter to these characters as well, even though they've never heard it. They don't have any tickets to a Ramin Djawadi in concert event, but this character and this moment earned it for the show, so I loved it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, they are not aware of it, but in as much as you can have the meta text, it's a conversation we'll be having forever. You know, going back to that pilot of like, how much should they play with what you know and what you don't know. I'm always going to be a sucker for that kind of thing when it's done in a cool way. And I think it matters. And I also think it does depend on what it is, because, you know, you brought up Star Wars. Would I ever be okay with the opening fanfare playing like in the final battle of a Star Wars thing? Probably not. I probably wouldn't want that, but it is cool though that they're able to find clever ways to go about it. And there's a history of that too. I mean, going back to Bear and the Maiden Fair, like they've always known how to throw in a little bit of like sort of like a rock and roll attitude in to the show. So
yeah, and I agree with that in terms of like I love the Star Wars theme showing up in Rise of Skywalker is one of my favorite moments, but it's played differently. This is there's this meta layer to it that I think the show is using quite well, and it's risky. It absolutely could be risky, and it might not be for everyone, and I actually would completely understand. So my final thoughts, I'll pitch it to you for your final thoughts to take us home here in this review here. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, all those good things. We have a podcast feed available. Leave a comment about what you loved about this episode. So this episode, without a doubt, just one of my favorites because it hit me on a personal level. And I know that's not always going to be the case for everyone. I know, and just in anything out there in the world of art, but particularly in the world of Game of Thrones, there's maybe elements missing for other people. But this episode hit me at the right time. It was a message I needed. It was a message I needed to believe in. And I just think this show has been just a warm, wonderful surprise. The amount of people across different sections of fandom that I know personally or are connected to, all just kind of have been like specifically moved by this show. It's doing something special, and this episode is the best of it so far for me.
100% agreed. And I've been loving all of the discussion around it, not just with people that we know, people that we don't know. So everybody, thank you so much for your comments and how much you've been enjoying it lately here on the channel.
Indeed. We'll race on to episode 5 next week, In the Name of the Mother. Owen Harris returning to the director's chair for that one. Sarah Dina Smith's got the finale. Looking forward to the big finale for that as well. So thank you all for watching. Like you said, Alden, I appreciate you. Appreciate all of us out there. I think it's time to go watch some National Football League championship action and Bad Bunny. We'll see you next time here on Casterly Talk.